Welcome to the Startup Grind.
Dale is the founder of the iconic Sleep Train, which is an industry. I mean, you guys know what Sleep Train is. We have the Sleep Train Arena. He was honored by Sac State with an honorary doctorate, and he's retired now. And in his second life, he's working with a lot of programs to help foster kids. So with that, please give him a big warm applause. You know, I've actually been trying to get you here for over a year, and you have some good gatekeepers. So I was just lucky the last time I ran into you and was able to get your info. So, you know, the first part of the interview is just sort of like maybe getting the audience to know a little bit more about yourself. Like, where are you from? You know, what did your parents do?
Sure. As I told a few of you, I don't know what he's going to ask yet, so this is going to be interesting. Let's see. I grew up initially in the Bay Area in Walnut Creek.
Okay.
Born in Walnut Creek. Good place. That was before it became Walnut Creek, though. It was really orchards when I lived there. But came up here to go to. My dad lived up in Cameron Park. I came up actually one summer. My parents were divorced, so I came up one summer to learn to fly. My dad lived in Cameron Park on the air park.
Planes?
Airplanes, yeah.
Wow.
And so he said if I paid for the gas, paid for the oil, paid for the instructor, I could use his plane to take lessons. So I came up between my sophomore and junior year of high school to learn to fly. Got my pilot's license when I was 17, and was on my road to go to UC Berkeley for college. Been accepted there. But my best friend started dating my girlfriend in high school, and I didn't think that was a good idea. And so I graduated early from high school and went to Sac State for a semester before I was going to go on to UC.
Was that because of your girlfriend?
Yeah, well, because I needed out of high school. I was just done.
Okay. It's always the girl.
Yeah, well, yeah. So I went to Sac State. It was going to be just a semester, but met some guys, joined a fraternity, really liked it. Decided I'd stay at Sac State, and asked my dad, okay, you okay with this? And I thought he would, not be exactly happy that I wasn't going to go on to UC Berkeley since I was already accepted there. And he said, hey, the school you go to will get you your first job. After that, you got to earn your way anyway. If you want to stay there, stay there. So I stayed there, and fortunately I did, because I got a part-time job at a mattress factory, emptying the garbage, taking the trash out. It's a beer and gas job while I went to school. And come on, you all had those. And yeah. And the rest is kind of history from there.
So, and I was looking through your bio, and it just basically said that after graduating from Sac State, you started Sleep Train. But there's got to be you started hinting it. You worked at a mattress company. So how did it?
Well, my degree was actually in real estate finance and insurance. I wanted to be a commercial real estate broker. So I interviewed a couple of real estate houses, got a couple job offers, but my boss came to me and said, hey, I really want you to stay with me and be my sales manager. But I wanted to do the real estate thing, but anybody that's done real estate knows that the first 2 years at least you pay your dues, right? And I have no problem paying dues, and all of you and entrepreneurs know about paying dues. And so my boss was offering me $30,000 a year, and real estate was offering me $12,000 a year. Real estate was offering me really no benefits, no vacation or anything. My boss was at vacation. And more importantly, my boss was offering me a 280Z T-top sports car as a company car, and I was young and single. And my friends will tell you I needed all the help I could get. So,
were you doing sales when you were working at the mattress?
Yeah, I was a sales rep. I would go up, I'd call on all the retail stores from Visalia to the Oregon border, the middle of nowhere, Nevada. And
so really, that's where you learn your sales skills.
My sales skills, yeah, right. And the real estate guy actually said, "Hey, come back. You have you have the education base. You need the sales experience." So the opportunity to be a sales manager out of college was great. Did that for a year, and then decided, I think I can do this better than what I saw happening out there. So I went to my dad again and said, "Okay, hey, guess what? I want to be a mattress guy." You can imagine he was thrilled. And he said, no, you're not going to open your own business. Small business fail. Stick with what you're doing. Do your real estate thing. He was a CPA, a certified public accountant, so he just had seen the other side of it. And He said no. Well, fortunately for me, my stepmom won a trip on the radio, and my parents took their first trip ever out of the country. They went to Europe, and in 1985, you can't call Europe. So while he was gone that 2 weeks, I bought a truck, leased some space, and quit my job.
Wow.
And opened up the first store.
So where did you get all the capital to do all this? Or was it savings or?
I had been fortunate to luck into buying a house when I was in college. I had saved up money and I bought a divorce. There was a divorce sale where the husband and wife just hated each other and they just wanted out of the house. And so I helped them with that by buying the house at a significant discount. And I had a house payment, mortgage, everything, all taxes, everything of $599 a month. And I had 2 roommates paying $250 a month in rent. $99 a month was all my cost was. So I'd built up a little equity in the house because I bought it cheap. And so I took out a household finance loan at 22.95% interest. Don't do that. It's very hard to pay back a loan at 22.95% interest. And that was my initial capital. Now I did leverage, because I was in the industry, I leveraged my relationships with people in the industry, so I was able to get some open credit with some of the vendors. In particular, my boss gave me open credit for him, for his account, and he helped support me.
Your Boston's U.S. competitor?
No, he was a manufacturer. I was a retailer.
Oh.
So I bought product from him, and he helped me get started and actually helped launch me. So he was very, very beneficial, and he wanted me to go do that because he thought the industry could be done differently too.
So, I have to ask, where did you come up with the name Sleep Train?
Number one asked question. Basically, I like trains. And I figured everybody likes trains, right? And I didn't, Dale's mattress store just didn't have the ring I was looking for. I like trains, and I figured that kids like trains in particular because they either had one around the Christmas tree or they played with one or they did something. And so I wanted them, when they saw our commercial or saw our ad, to go, Mommy, train, Mommy, train. And Mommy would look and Mommy would see Sleep Train and would know our brand and so forth. So, of course, then the tagline was your ticket to a better night's sleep, which just kind of went right with that I wanted to change the difference.
So, and it's actually, I was talking to a millennial yesterday. She's a student at UC Davis, and I said, I'm interviewing you. And you're the founder of Sleep Train, and she goes, Sleep Train, toot, toot. She actually said that.
Yeah, we actually, second graders can repeat that. If you ask a group of second graders, they could tell you that.
Yeah, so it's a great brand, and we'll talk about this later, but she hates the mattress firm. We'll talk about that later. So you had your first store, so how did, I'm just sort of putting myself in your shoes, okay, I got a store, I got mattresses, so what was your, how did you, market yourself?
Well, my first marketing was not that successful. First of all, I was this real estate guy, right? And so theoretically, I should know real estate. But what's the number one rule of real estate?
Location.
Okay, right. Well, when you're 23 with no money, what does location look like? Right. It's close to your house, something you can afford, and a landlord that will actually rent to you. Yeah. That's not going to get How About Arden as a location, right? So my first location, though, was next to the flea market on Folsom Boulevard, because that attracts the right clientele that I wanted. So my first location was not very good, and I didn't have any money to advertise. So my advertising was in the penny saver and so forth. And about 8 months into my venture, my dad was pretty close to being right that this was not going to be successful. By the way, he did back me in it, not financially or anything, but he did tell me when he came home that if I wanted to be successful, I needed to surround myself with good people, treat them right, and make everybody successful. And that is exactly what built the company. I was fortunate to have great people. But the 8 months into it, he was pretty close to being right. And any of you that have fathers like mine, that's pretty much the last thing you want to have happen, right? To have dad be right. So I tried to figure out what I was going to do. So I decided, well, the best thing to do is to double the size of the company, open a second store so I could afford to advertise more. And I figured I would either go broke twice as fast and get it over with, or I'd make it work. And at that time, I had an account executive for KFBK Radio come in. He actually we were right next to Rumwa's Pizza. I don't know if anybody's eaten at Rumwa's Pizza. It's fantastic pizza, by the way. But the rep was from Philadelphia. He was actually a drummer in the Ray Charles band. Had taken a break from traveling with Ray and was trying to do radio. So we got to be friends. He would just tell me stories, trying to convince me to buy radio. And one day he came in and he goes, "Hey, we got this new guy in the station. He needs a bed. Will you take care of him?" And I said, "Well, I need every sale I can get, because my dad's about ready to be right." And so he brought him in, and it happened to be Rush Limbaugh. Those of you who don't know, Rush started here in Sacramento.
Oh, I didn't know that.
And he had just started. He had just gone on the air. He just started his show. His show was way different then than it is now, just so we're clear. He came in and he said, "You got to let me tell your story. You're a young kid doing things right. Let me go on the radio and tell your story." And I said, "Well, I can't afford radio, and I can't afford, KFBK of all radio. It's the most expensive radio in town." And somehow he convinced me. So he went on the radio and he started telling my story, and people started coming in left and right saying, "I want the bed Rush sleeps on." Well, Rush had no money at that time, so he had just bought a middle line bed. And so I called him back up and said, "Rush, we need to get you on a better bed." Because they will buy any bed you're sleeping on, and I can't lie. So I gave him the top line bed, and that started how I got into radio. From there, I realized that he couldn't be the only one that could do this. And, so we have used everybody from Al Franken did spots for us. Al Gore actually did one spot for us. And to Rush Limbaugh, to everybody from all over, because the greatest thing about the product we were selling was everybody sleeps. So it didn't matter what their political beliefs or lines were. None of that matters. It matters that everybody needs a good night's sleep. And quite frankly, it was my belief that if everybody got a good night's sleep, our country would be better off and we'd be a happier place. And Lord knows we need a little more sleep now. So we started using radio personalities to tell our story.
Wow. So in your case, it was radio.
Radio would be I give a lot of credit to our success of getting our message out to radio, and which was a medium that nobody really was using at the time.
Do you still see that now? Like if it was a startup that had a business, a B2C?
Yeah, I think radio has a lot of merit that people don't understand, because if you think about it, and think about your own, now there's a lot of challenges to radio now, between Spotify, between everything that's out there. But when people are commuting, they tend to turn to that morning station to hear the local stuff. They want to hear the local stuff. On the ride home, they might be listening more to the music that they want to listen to. But that morning talk show, that morning radio station, there's a lot of people that still tune into that. And if you can get the connection and get the, we broke through all the clutter by having the personalities do the spot. And I gave them carte blanche to be able to do it any way they wanted to do it. And I can tell you, that went all over the board. I mean, there were spots that I didn't really want to hear because, you can imagine, your hard rock stations are going to do a spot a lot different than your classic news talk is going to do, because their audience will accept that, right? Because you're talking about mattresses. You can imagine where the spots can go.
Oh, wow. Oh, okay.
But, my view was just like using Rush Limbaugh, who, back then, had his people liked him, people didn't like him. Primarily the people that listened to him were there. We'd actually have 3 people come in for Rush Limbaugh back in the day, and that were people that hated him and thought he was the devil himself, people that loved him and thought he was God himself, and then people that just found him, humorous or interesting to listen to. The ones that always questioned me were the people that hated him and came in and still bought. So you're listening to the devil and you're still coming in where he told you to go. I don't get where you're, but. So.
Yeah, we actually had a client, we made an app for a client, and they somehow got a Rush Limbaugh to mention it, and he mentioned it on the radio, and it actually crashed, the next day it crashed their server. They had so many people calling in or trying the product out.
There's a lot of great personalities out there that do great spots, so we're probably over my career, we've used thousands of different personalities across the country, because I took that model to Mattress Firm when we sold it to them, and then they are now using personalities across the country as well.
So going back to branding, how did you come up with the tagline and the toot-toot?
Well, it was all tied together, it's
Was it you, or did you hire a marketing firm?
No, that was all me.
It's all you.
That was me. Yeah, yeah. That was
It worked.
you know, I wanted to. I came up with the name Sleep Train first. You know, my roommate painted on card on you know what 4x8 plywood things on the side of my truck. You know, Sleep Train, and painted a train and mattresses and more. And which, by the way, I traded in my 280Z, and now I'm driving a truck with mattresses and more on it. I'm still single. Not the best dating vehicle.
Yeah, yeah. So like I think that you had Sleep Train ended up having something like 270 stores or something like that.
Yeah, we had 312 stores when we sold.
So like how do you even manage that expansion? Your first you had your first store, and then like, how did you manage each store
Sure.
opening?
You know, first of all, and one thing I highly recommend that everybody understand, and that's culture. Because I had a lot of learnings in culture, but the one thing I'll tell you is culture is everything. So culture is vital. That whatever culture you want to build that from the start, and then be sure you don't let it get diluted. You've got to continue to do that. So when we grew to new markets, we would get people within our organization that were willing to move to that new market, so that we could transfer their knowledge and the culture, and let them lead it, and let them drive the culture in that market. Because that's where a lot of companies fail, is that their culture eats up, and it's a different culture in a different market than it is where you're at.
So basically, the headquarters was sort of the grooming spot for
Right.
new store managers, I guess.
Right. We start them here, and then we grow to new markets, and then in those markets, as they grew and understood it, they could go to other markets too. So we just kind of kept multiplying people that were willing to transfer to a new market to be the lead guy there. Because that's the reason, as I tell my wife through the time frame we were growing and stuff. The one reason I grew, I wanted 10 stores. That's all I wanted, was 10 stores. We ended up with 312 in 6 states before we sold. But I wanted 10 stores, but the problem was I had great people. And these people wanted to do more. They wanted to be a manager of the store. They wanted to be a district manager. They wanted to be a regional manager. They wanted to be a vice president. Well, the only way that I could provide these jobs for all of them was to open more stores, more regions, more districts, and so forth. So the reason we grew was because we had great people. And great people is what it's all about. If you remember what I said, my dad's advice was, if you want to be successful, surround yourself with great people, treat them right, and make everybody successful. And that's a part that a lot of companies miss. And it's funny what you'll find, like when I was there, and you're all there you're on a shoestring of a budget, right? So how do you treat people right? The problem is that most people don't understand that most people don't necessarily care about what they're getting paid. They really care about being part of a team. They care about being heard and being part of what the action is. They care about having fun with the people. We built a culture of fun. Some would say it was too much fun. But you go a long way with pizza and beer with a team to say, hey, we're doing this. I mean, the guy who is now headed up mattress firms, all of their comp and all their stuff there. He started with me, and he sat there at the first function at the spaghetti factory right down the street, and sat down with me and had a beer. And it wasn't until 2 days later he realized I was president and CEO of the company. And he goes, and I drove him home because he had too much, But that building a culture that is inclusive of everybody and having them be part of it. What fails, I think, in a lot of companies is when there's only the nucleus is the inner circle, and everybody else feels like they're the outer circle. That to me is where you'll lose people. They don't want to be part of something where they feel outside. They want to be inside. They want to be part of the team. And that's what I did. I took my dad's advice and said, make everybody a team, because I wasn't smart enough to build this. I needed everybody else's input, ideas. How do you do it better? And we would have offsites. Once a year we always had a retreat where we would take everybody out of the field and say, okay, what are we doing right? What are we doing wrong? How do we do it better? And everybody was free to bring their own ideas to the table.
So, I'm just thinking back, like when you first started Sleep Train, what was the competitive environment? I mean, there was a reason you started. Like, what was the competitive environment? Right.
Well, I mean, all entrepreneurs start because they see an opportunity to make something better, to do something better, right? They see that there's a hole in something that's there. In my world, mattresses were primarily sold through department stores and furniture stores like Bruner's used to be in town here. So Macy's and Bruner's were the biggest sellers of mattresses in the Sacramento region. But if you ordered a bed if you needed a bed, you went to Macy's or Bruner's, and it would be 4 weeks before they would deliver it to you. So you'd pay for the bed, then it'd be 4 weeks later when you got a bed. And what I looked at is, first of all, anybody here, isn't it, do you just wake up one morning and say, hey, let's go mattress shopping, that'll be fun. No, you go mattress shopping because you need a bed, right? Your back's hurting, you're moving into a new place, you just got divorced, whatever the cause is, you need a bed. And I decided you didn't need to wait 4 weeks, you want it then. So my whole premise was that people need to be serviced better and given more opportunity to get it. So we started same-day delivery at the beginning. My same-day delivery consisted of me giving the keys to my truck to the customer so they could take it home and bring it back. Until my lawyer and insurance guy found out about it, and they said, "Yeah, you can't do that. You can't just give your truck out to anybody." Well, they left their car, and many of the cars were not very good. But
So actually, if you think about it, that was your disruption.
Right.
You had the main.
We disrupted it. Yes,
Right.
it was there was not, because there's been the waterbed industry, and it had exploded and then it collapsed.
Right.
And so there's this void of where do you buy a mattress, how do you buy a mattress. The other thing is, if you look at mattresses, they're all rectangles, right? And they're all, in these days, they're pretty much all some form of white color. But why is one $500 and one $5,000? And the department stores and everybody else, my other competitors, didn't have trained staff to be able to share with somebody why you should spend more on that mattress. What was that need? Or did you? Maybe you don't need that for that room. And so we began training and teaching our people to help find, what is your back needs? Is it lower back? Is it upper back? Do you toss and turn? What are your needs? Do you have different ailments? If those ailments are there, let's figure out the bed that will be right for you for that. So it's that service end of it that was important.
Like back experts in a way.
Right, yeah. And it became, our goal was to make sure that they were happy so that they would tell other people about us, because that's what we wanted to create, was that buzz, which is what worked. We had people that would constantly say, because fortunately it was easy, because in retail, service has gone out the window. So if you stand out by being a strong service provider, all of a sudden it's better. And we would have arguments because we had free same-day delivery. And when we're doing the math and everybody's going, we can't afford to do this, and our competitors aren't doing it, why are we doing it? And my opinion was, if we do it, they will come. And Mattress Room is actually seeing some of them. They switched that, and they're actually starting to do some moves back to it. So
now that we're like sort of in the internet, are you seeing any in the mattress industry? Are you seeing any kind of changes, or does it still have to be?
No, when I started, I didn't think the internet could interrupt our field, because we're big products, right? And how are you going to ship that and so forth? But it has been interrupted. The Caspers of the world, all the different Tufted Needle, all the different ones that are out there. There's 24 of them now that do bed in a box, is what we call it. Because they ship it UPS in a box for the mattress. Now you still have to go out and get the box spring, and so forth. But that has gone from the industry had been about 2-3% to now, I think that end of the business is now over 10% of the business. So it's had a huge impact in that. Now it would not have necessarily disrupted the sleep train model, because our model was really the master bedroom, primarily 35-year-old and older master bedroom, where the bed in the box is really servicing the 20 to 30-year-old bracket of the first bed, the first master bedroom, and so forth. So.
Okay. Well, I remember a question I was going to ask you. So I have to thank you for rechanging the name of the. It was called the Power Band Arena to the
Power Balance, I think it was.
Power Balance. Yeah. So what was the process of naming the arena Sleep Train?
Oh, sure. That was actually one of the few times I had a very open policy management, where my management team and us, we decided everything. Was not the dictator. They all knew I had the final say, but it's very, very rare that I went against. It usually was a unanimous, everybody agreed to do where we were going to go. That was one that we had some disagreement on in our team, and I voted to go forward with it. And my reason was, I had looked at our reach. I'm very much about the region and how important our region is. And for a region to be successful, it needs to have sports, it needs to have music, it needs to have arts, it needs to have all these elements in play for a region to be successful, because you need this to entertain and to spur energy within a region. So if you don't have that, then the region will shrink. And so I knew that if we had lost the Kings, which we were very close to losing, we would not get a professional team back in this market for 20 plus years. It would have been a long time before we got one back, and that would have just devastated the growth of this region. So I looked at the fact that our brand had a very strong reputation in town. We were very well known, and all the energy had been so negative. The Maloofs had been so negative. Power Balance was bankrupt. Yeah. The team sucked. There was all this going against us that I thought if we could just try to lift the conversation to be different, so that we could have a positive spin to it, that it would make a difference. So, we went with naming it and changed it, and it effectively did. I mean, David Stern on the day opening game said, if you had not done this team would not be here. So
thank you.
yeah, I was going, wow, thank you. So it was, and it's been success. I mean, without that, we wouldn't have had what's happened now, downtown, and with the Golden One and all that. So the dominoes of what we were able to accomplish by making that switch.
It sounds like it was a little bit altruistic, but did it actually have did you see like an uptick in sales with the?
Yeah, well, I won't deny that we actually got a great deal on it too. But it did help and benefit us. Where it helped us really is in growth out of market, because our brand, in different markets. It also helped us in the sale because the private equity guys had heard of the name because of seeing it because of the games.
Okay.
So it was actually very beneficial there.
So if I have a chance to name get a.
You should
arena,
pick it up.
go for
Yeah.
it.
Well, I mean, look. I mean, you get. Just to show an example here. So, you got the Sac Republic, right? And so you got Ed Sheeran, who was in town wearing that jersey, which is branded UC Davis. So that hit and went viral. So the branding and how it just can go all the way around is amazing. Now, I will tell you, naming rights are way overpriced, and they're very hard to afford. And we just happened to get a great price because of the circumstance, and it paid off. Because the discussion in our team was that this could go one of two ways. Things have been so negative. If it went the other way and people turned against us because we were now associated with all the negativity, that would be bad. But fortunately, tides turned and it went the way I thought it would go.
So tell me about, I guess this is sort of the end of the sleep train. Tell me about the acquisition process by, I guess it's mattress firm.
Sure. So I'll start back just a little bit of why I sold. Because I really didn't build a company to sell. I mean, first of all, I was there for 30 years, so I'd worked a long time. But in 2010, my wife and I decided to sell 25% of the company, or basically give 25% of the company to our employees through an employee stock ownership plan, an ESOP. And it was my view, I mean, if you got to remember, 2010, the economy had crashed, everything was a mess. We were in the tank. It was not a good time. All my investors, I didn't have investors, all my advisors were dead set against it, said this is the wrong time, you shouldn't do this, you're taking such a hit, you shouldn't do this. But it was my view, if I got everybody online and everybody pointed the right direction, we could come out of this stronger and better than ever. So we gave 25%. The way an ESOP works is basically employees don't pay anything for their shares. They earn them by their time spent working at the company. So they earn these shares, and then they would get a part of it. So we had grown the company, and we knew that it was time to try to maximize that.
Did you have 100% ownership at this point?
Huh?
Did you have 100?
It was myself, and then I had given some restricted shares to my management team as well.
Okay.
But yes, it was controlled completely by us. So we did the ESOP and that, and we looked at the whole industry and really saw that the industry was changing. And so, anybody played the game of Risk as a kid?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. So if you looked at in 2014 when we did this, if you looked at the game board for the mattress world in the game of Risk mattresses, Sleepy's owned the northeast quadrant of the United States. They pretty much had, the lion's share of business in that area. We owned the West. We were the top dog on the West, and then Mattress Firm owned the South and the middle of America, and all the way over to Florida. And Mattress Firm had been growing. They were private equity owned. Sleepy's and us were privately owned. But Mattress Firm was growing rapidly and acquiring companies across the country. And so Steve and I, who was the CEO, and I were friends, and we had started talking and kept saying we need to bring these two companies together. We're very much aligned. These two companies should come together and so forth. And I kept saying, no, I'm not ready. No, we're not ready. No, we're not ready. And finally, he came to me and said, okay, hey, I finally got my team on board to make you a legitimate full offer. And so he made the offer, and I looked at it and I said, okay, if we bring our two companies together, the strength that we'll have will be great, and the synergies that we could pull together would be phenomenal. Because the vendor side, the wholesale side, had consolidated. Simmons and Serta became one company, and Sealy and Tempur-Pedic became one company. So we went from 4 different vendors to now just 2. So that dynamic was changing some of the negotiation world out there. So the bigger and stronger we got, the better we could balance out that situation. So we came together and decided it was the right thing to do. And I looked at it for multiple things from our perspective. And it was never about money for me, because that's, I've been very blessed and I've had a good life. And I'm fortunately married to a wonderful woman who doesn't care about money. She's a pediatrician, and she just cares about helping kids and doing the right thing. And so, we've always just done what we've done, and that's been fun. But we were able, through this sale, to distribute $117 million to our employees. And that was life-changing to many of them. Wow. And so we decided that was something that was worthwhile doing. On top of that, we had talked with Steve and his team, and they had really gotten to understand our philanthropy and the need to help foster kids. And so they said that, we'll take this program and run it across the country. So instead of just helping in the 6 states, we're now in 39 states helping foster kids.
Sleep train
foster kids, yeah. Now it's Mattress Firm Foster Kids. Okay. But under Ticket to Dream, which is the 501c3 that oversees it, I oversee that, and now we're able to help foster kids across the country.
One of the questions is, how did you get into helping foster kids?
Well, I started from the beginning, in that when I'd gone to, I was raised that you have to give back. It's just the right thing to do no matter what. And so when I started, it was like, okay, how do I give back? I have no money. I have a 22.95% interest I have to pay. But what do I have? What can I give? And I had mattresses that I could buy cheaper than others could, right? Because I could buy at wholesale and I could help there. And I'd done a research project on a group home here in Sacramento, and had become aware of foster kids and group homes and the need to help out at-risk kids. And so my wife, being a pediatrician, she also is all about kids. And so, now we weren't married then, but I just said, hey, this is where I want to kind of focus. So we started with mattresses for kids. And I went to my vendors and I said, okay, look, I need help. I want to help these kids. So you have mattresses, I buy mattresses. How about this? You donate 1 mattress for every mattress I buy from you that I give to foster kids. You give me 1 to give, and then you sell me the ones I'm buying at just labor and material, not at your marked up price. And so they agreed to do that, so that we would give mattresses to at-risk kids, because I'm also a big believer in education. And we did a toy drive for kids in association with the Eagle radio station when it was here, and we had gone out, and because they borrowed my truck to deliver all the toys, and as we're delivering the toys, these kids are sleeping on dirty clothes, sleeping on what we call banana beds, sleeping on the couch. They didn't have a good bed to sleep on, and how are you going to be able to learn in the morning when you didn't sleep good at night? So I wanted to get these kids on new supportive mattresses, not used mattresses, because you're just doing the same thing. You're just giving them a used mattress, so a new mattress. And you'd be amazed when we deliver these mattresses to these kids, because we'd bring them, one that sticks out. Brought this kid. He had just prayed for a basketball. He wanted a basketball so bad. That's what he wanted. So we brought him a basketball and he brought him a new bed. The minute he saw the new bed, he was beyond excited. The basketball went out the door. He was about this bed. He said, "A new bed for me? A new bed just for me? A bed someone hasn't peed in?" That, meant a lot to him. That was his bed, that he needed a bed to sleep on. So, it was something that's very important to do. And then we grew from that to learn that, because when I first started, I believed in giving but not being public about it. It was just about doing the right thing, right? But I sat on enough charity boards to realize that we need to get the message out that different kids need help. And so I started to look, okay, how can we do that? And we bought Sleep Country up in the Northwest, and they had just done a drive for kids in their store. And so he said, this could really work. I mean, we can invite the community to help, and we could collect the items, and then we can deliver them to that. So we started out doing that, and we collect, pajamas, we collect shoes, we protect backpacks, we get jackets, we get, school supplies, because everybody knows, the teachers don't have any school supplies, and you're all supposed to take the little sticky note and bring in your supplies, but that's not happening for these kids. So they don't have the school supplies. Shoes, everybody looks, okay, well, why shoes? Well, if you know anything about, school these days, if you're that kid with those old shoes, you're that kid. Shoes matter to kids. They have to be, be cool. They have to be there. They don't want to be that kid. Same with the new backpack. They want the ratty backpack. They want a new backpack. Pajamas. You wouldn't think pajamas would matter, right? But if you understand how these kids are taken out of the home quite often, you understand that basically what happens, this isn't all the cases, but on a common basis, unfortunately, dad's probably out of the picture. Mom, having to deal with everything like that, goes sideways as well. They decide to take the kids from mom. The white van from the county shows up at the school. The kid is asked to come out. He goes in the white van. They take him by the house. They give him a trash bag to go for 5 minutes, go grab what you want out of the house of your clothes, and come on, and then get in here, and we're going to go put you somewhere. So they don't have necessarily everything when they leave. And they don't have their pajamas. They don't have new pajamas. So they got the hand-me-down ones, or the ones that are there, or they just don't have any. We gave a new pair of pajamas to a 7-year-old boy. 7-year-old boy. He was so excited because they were Superman pajamas, and they're new. And he's running around, flying like Superman. He goes, "I'm Superman, I'm Superman," and he goes, "Maybe now I can help my mom." And so you're just going, oh. But for a moment, he was empowered that his life was not all that bad, and that things could get better, and so forth. So it meant the world to him. So
now that are you officially retired from Sleep Train?
Yeah, so the rest of the Sleep Train story for me was we sold in 2014. I became president of a mattress firm for the nationwide company. I was supposed to do that for 3 years, but then realized that the charity was going to need more help and more guidance. And so I resigned as, in cooperation with them, resigned as president. I was vice chairman of the board, so I remained on the board. Resigned as president and took over being CEO of Ticket to Dream Foundation in order to grow up. Because I had grown that organization within our company, and being that they were a publicly traded company, they really couldn't do that within the company. We really needed to. It's a public charity. It really couldn't be based inside of the public entity, so we needed to break it out and run it separately. Mm-hmm. So I took over running that, stayed on the board until we sold the company again. The company got an unsolicited offer really from a South African company who came in and bought it, and so that they kind of took it private, and that ended my board seat, which was great because I didn't have to go to Houston anymore. And so I just work from the charity side, which is a separate organization than them, but I work with them very closely on making the program work.
So what other things? I think you're involved with some entrepreneurial programs, and Sabian mentioned Moneta too. So what other things are you doing?
Yeah, so I'm, as my friends have said, I'm failing at retirement. because I'm working too much. But I enjoy. I do some mentorship. So there's a couple different companies and CEOs that I've mentored. I like talking in groups like this or talking with groups. I do that. I'm on the investment board with Moneta, which I really enjoy seeing the new companies that Sabia does all the work to, show me what they're all about. I'm also working with Sac State. We're looking, the Greater Sacramento Economic Council. Do you guys all know that organization, GSAC? We're looking to put a full program in throughout the community that's really all integrated for entrepreneurship here. We've got UC Davis, we got Sac State, we got Los Rios community colleges, we got the community college system here. There's a lot of entrepreneurs like yourselves out there wanting to figure out how they can do what they want to do. How do they find their dream, and so forth. But we need to create the channels and the training and the schools. We got. Generally just went to the restaurant thing, but he's teaching entrepreneurship in high school. That's awesome. Yeah, so the ability to get kids started that early thinking about it. President Nelson at Sac State wants to create a whole atmosphere of entrepreneurship throughout Sac State, throughout all the colleges, because he believes, as I do, that entrepreneurship doesn't just come from business. It comes from wherever somebody is at, right? So be able to create that atmosphere where the colleges can help support it. We can create some accelerator programs here locally. We can create angel funding here locally to get people started, as well as then going on to the Monetas, the DC Capitals, and other funding here, and perhaps hopefully, as we're looking to continue to grow more VCs and more private equity here to help us grow and do that. Because if we can grow more companies here, more companies can create more jobs, can create more atmosphere, create more wealth, for everybody here, we can create a better community.
All right. So I am going to open up for questions now from the audience. Laura?
So you hit one of my exciting buttons is the activating more angel investors here, getting high wealth individuals interested in investing in the community as putting on the mindset somewhat, not just for return on investment, but also for the philanthropic impact it has
Right.
on the community. And there are some angel groups here that aren't well known for investing in Sacramento companies. And I wondered if you and your friends, some who are probably also high wealth individuals, if you've thought about this and have any ideas on, what do we need to do as a community to get those individuals interested in investing in the community?
Well, I think part of that is building the story, right? Because quite frankly, there's a lot of high wealth individuals that don't understand that end of the business, how that works, what it means, so they're scared. It's a lack of knowledge, I think, that keeps them from understanding. It's also we were talking earlier about understanding wealth and how you can use it in your lifetime. Some people accumulate wealth and think that they need to hold on to it. They want to hold on to it for the kids, want to hold on to that. They get scared. They don't know how to plan to be able to use it. And so I think there's an education that needs to happen, the opportunity to show here's what you can do and here's the return on investment that you get. It's my wife and I have been very blessed with, we have learned and we learned early on, the adage is very true, that the more you give, the more you get. I mean, I can tell you 100% that we did all of our philanthropy work because it's the right thing to do and because we believed in the programs, or believed in the kids, or believed in whatever we were supporting. But it seemed the more we helped others, the more successful we became, or the more opportunities fell in our lap, or the more things that were there. And so we looked to say, okay, where do we go from this? In fact, we've done something that's made it fun for us, and that's that we've taken we're not a belief that kids should be, our kids, this is not for them. And we actually told them that early on. We raised our kids to understand that, look, we are building this, but this is not for you. We're building this, and a majority of our estate, majority of our wealth will go to others that need help. And we wanted their buy-in to that, and they are very much bought into it. Now, my kids will not starve, but we just don't believe that they need to have. No one needs that much wealth. They just don't. No one does. There's just not a reason for it. So, and it creates more bad than it does good. If you just look at history, more families have more trouble because of wealth with their kids than anything else. So, really understanding what you're doing for your kids. Now, I will tell you that understand one of the reasons that they'll do well is that I did things early on that I didn't know the company would be this successful. So they get a benefit there. But some of my estate planning, benefited them there. But we've actually separated so that the kids know we have them; they're all set. But the majority of our estate is in a separate entity that we invest in, and we didn't put it all into it. We do have a foundation. We have a private foundation, family foundation, but we didn't put it all in there now because foundations are limited on some of the investments they can do, some of the risks they can take. And we thought that we would rather invest it, like we can do investments where ROI isn't money always. It could be the good for the community. It could be that, and you can't do that necessarily in a foundation and fulfill your fiduciary responsibilities. So we kept it out, but it still all goes there in the end. So it allows us to actually do investing with a whole different mindset. And you'd be amazed at the people that we work with that go, oh, that's really cool. Okay, well, we want to do business with you because of it. So, yes.
Brenda?
I'm just curious, if you were starting a mattress business today, how would you go about it with today's modern business, technologies and so forth?
Today is a whole different world. I've spent a lot of hours thinking about what because the current mattress world is not what Sleep Train was, can't exist in the future because of technology, because of internet, because of everything. Retail in itself is changing dramatically. Yeah, and so it's just, we're going to have a real transition here, and one of the opportunities is to figure out what do we do with the available retail space that's coming available, because their stores are shrinking left and right, and they will continue to shrink because, come on, who doesn't buy on Amazon? We all are contributing to the change of the world, so we got to figure out now what do we do with these buildings that are built in all this space, because if it blights, that doesn't help the communities, right? So we got to find, there's got to be uses of these that someone hasn't thought of yet, that someone hasn't figured out what they can be used for, besides growing pot. We all know we can, do that starting in January. But
That being said, and knowing all that, would you opt not to start a mattress business?
no, I would do it differently, because there's people always still need to sleep, and our product is a touch and feel product, right? So, you can buy, your guest bedroom, you can buy your kids' room, and you can buy your first couple beds there. But by the time you start getting older, your body aches and you need a little more support. And there's other issues that are at play that you need to find the one that's right, and can't just order one online and, send it back, because they're not really taking them back. They just have to have you keep it. Then you got to get rid of it. So in many cases,
So
not all of them.
that's one thing about your business, and I would think that the internet really couldn't do it, because if you want to buy a bed, you can't try it on the internet. You actually have to
Right.
go somewhere and
You got to lay
yeah.
on it. You got to lay on it.
So how's this? So I was actually kind of surprised when you said the internet is changing it. So people are just buying beds off the internet without actually trying it.
Yeah. And like I said, those are those initial beds. Because when you're 25, you don't care, right? You've slept on crappy beds, for the first 5 years when you left the house at 18, right? So you don't care, But as I said, every 5 years your body changes and needs more support, more issues. So then that's when it starts to become more of an issue, and we're seeing that. We're seeing people now. It's slowed down. It was growing like this, and now it's tapered off.
Okay.
But there's the use of technology, though, is there in the training, in the knowledge build, and in the beds. Beds are changing. Technology is changing in beds. Where it used to be just, they were all built the same. The only difference was the brand name on it and the, how many layers of foam they had on it. Now the technology in foams, technology in springs, technology in cooling and heating of your beds are all changing. So technology will play a role in mattresses in the future.
Good question.
Yeah, you have an awesome story. You should have somebody write a book with you about it. But have you thought about something that you would have changed going back through your history of your business?
lots of things I would have changed. We made lots of mistakes over the time. So what I'm a big believer in is mistakes are good as long as you learn from them.
What was like a mistake that you thought that you really learned a lot from? I guess.
Well, let's see. When I one of my first early lessons was we had decided in about '93 or so we had at that time we had 5 stores. 1, 2, 3, 4 stores. 4 stores, and we decided that it was time to expand. And we thought we could expand, to a variety of markets. And we made our list of markets and so forth. But we knew it was going to take a little time because there was no money for this. The money to grow the company was coming from internal. I didn't have any funding. Never, it wasn't until 2006, because that's a really good year to take out debt, did I have any debt on the company. But in '93, we decided, so we put our plan together. We had our business model. We knew we had to do our training programs. We actually knew it was a 5-year plan before we'd have the cash to be able to grow and have everything in place. But in 1995, Smith's Home Furnishings in Portland, Oregon filed bankruptcy. Well, that time Macy's was in bankruptcy, Bruner's was in bankruptcy, and a lot of the major players were in bankruptcy. But they were all going to come out of it. But this guy was not, and he had 50% of the market share in the Oregon market. And so we're going, wow, that's a huge hole. We need to go to Portland, and we got everything we need but money. So let's go anyway. So we went up and we opened 4 stores. Well, the problem is that the market could support much greater. And so a competitor from Seattle came down, they opened 10 stores. The local competitors, they opened more stores. So it was my first knowledge of scale, and that when you go into a market, you need to go in and go big and take over. And so we learned from that. And the next year, this competitor from the Northwest, they were based in Seattle, and so we decided the way to compete against them was to go into their market and have them compete against us in their own backyard as well as in Portland, so that they had to fight 2 battles instead of just fighting us down here. So we were able to get our vendors to help support us, and we went and opened up 14 stores within 3 months in the Seattle market. The next year we went down and opened up 23 stores in the San Francisco Bay Area. And then the next year we had private equity came into the business, and Bain Capital had bought Sealy Mattress Company, and Fenway Partners had bought Simmons Mattress Company, and they were both decided they were going to go vertical in the industry. So they started to buy up retailers, and they came to me and asked, wanted to buy my company. And quite frankly, I started to go down the road with it because they were offering millions of dollars, and I was, young, and I go, this is great, but I wasn't sleeping well, which is not good for a mattress guy. Mattress guys should sleep well. And my wife goes, well, why are you selling? And I go, because it's millions of dollars. And she goes, well, so we can do everything we want to do now, right? I go, yeah. And so we have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old. We're not going to travel the world. Well, yeah. Your friends can't go play with you because they're working. Yeah. You don't fish and you suck at golf. So what are you going to do with your life? It's all true. But she was telling us I loved what I was doing, and so I had to call them back up and say, I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to sell. I'm sorry. And they said, are you sure? And I go, I'm sure. I don't want to do it. They said, okay, well, let me fly out and talk to you. He took the red eye out. I went in. I left the house that morning and said, are you sure? And she said, yes, it's the right thing to do. I said, this may never happen again. And she goes, I know. So I left, and the guy said, okay, I know you don't want to sell the whole company. How about just your Northwest stores? I go, I don't want to sell my Northwest stores. They're doing great. Why would it? Well, they actually weren't doing great, but I was telling them. But why would I want to sell them? And he goes, well, because we're going to pay you this much for it. And I go, well, that's good, but I really don't want to sell them. And he said, well, how about this? We're buying your biggest competitor, and if you don't, we're coming after you. Yeah, well, I didn't have any money once again because we had used everything to grow, and I had no war chest and all that, and so the threat was pretty real. I had 25% of my business up in the Northwest, 75% of it down in California. I said, it could take the whole company down. So we sold the Northwest and invested in the company. And then we spent 2 years investing 100% into the company. because I wanted to build a company that could never be threatened like that again. And so we built it up and grew it. And then ironically, 5 years later, when my covenant not to compete had expired, I now was the stronger player, and I went to them and said, because they had now pushed it down onto Simmons, and we were Simmons' biggest customer on the in the West. And so I told them, look, you really don't want to be in retail. I need to be in retail. Give me my stores back. So we bought our stores back in 2006, which is the completely wrong time to buy at the top, because everything crashed right after that. First time I'd ever taken out money to do it all, and first time working with banks, and found that to be interesting. Not, and so, but it's the lessons are, one, know your scale, know your competitors, and know where you're going to go after. And was one of the lessons I learned, and so forth.
Back there?
How many questions can I ask you?
Go ahead.
That's one. We got just ask one.
When you were coming out of college and making that transition into your career, being in a fraternity, were you able to utilize your fraternity brothers, or is it something that you were latching off of?
Oh no. Hey, I could get them to deliver for a 6-pack of beer. Okay.
Come on, cheap labor.
Yeah, actually, if my COO for the company, who became COO for a mattress firm, and now he's retired, but he literally started the company because I called over to the fraternity house. I needed somebody to do a delivery, and he said, Rob, can you come down here? I'll give you a 6-pack of beer. And he came down. Decided, hey, I'm looking for work. You got anything more I can do? And we grew from there. We hired most everybody for years out of the college. And brother, one of the things that I did, and from sales perspective, is I didn't want my competitors' people. We had a policy we wouldn't hire competitors' people, because I didn't want their bad habits. I didn't want their bad impressions. I wanted somebody fresh that would learn my way, learn
That's
our
interesting.
culture.
So you think maybe one of your secret success was hiring college grads.
Yes.
Fresh, with no experience.
Yeah, and helping them be part of it and grow. They bring new minds. And it's not, and it doesn't matter, young or old. It didn't matter. We had all sorts of different people. So we hire, anybody that had a new, fresh mind that was willing to look. But I didn't care if they were that. We also, it's hard in the mattress world. We wanted to hire more women, because women actually are better salespeople on the floor for mattresses. And but trying to get women to want to sell mattresses was harder, from that standpoint. But trying to push for diversity and having a broader base of sales staff was important. to us.
Were you recruiting mostly from Sac State?
It grew from there to all different colleges, but we took a tremendous amount of people from Sac State.
Okay, because I was actually wondering how if you were growing the way your expansion model. So you basically would hire locally
Right.
grads, train them, and then they would go out.
Right.
And then they would be the general
New
managers
leads.
when you
Right.
open up a store.
Which is also why they were more mobile and easy to move. They were willing to move and so forth. And that's actually Mattress Firm's foundation was built the same way. They grew out of the University of North Dakota. Yeah, that's the school. Of course, it's pretty easy to talk people to move out of North Dakota. So, but they grew by hiring college students as well.
Okay, I got it.
Yeah.
I'll get you next.
Can you talk a little more about passion? Like, how passionate were you about mattresses? And for entrepreneurs, how passionate do they have to be about their ideas to be successful?
You guys don't love mattresses? Come on. When you get home tonight, hug that mattress. Tell it you love it.
What mattress do you sleep on? I just gotta curious.
Well, we have. I sleep around. In the early days, we've changed out the mattresses and different things. I currently at home have a Tempur-Pedic, but my new favorite bed is the Simmons Beautyrest Black. It's a hybrid, so it's part coil, part memory foam. So I really love that product. I love the Tempur-Pedic as well, but the Simmons hybrid is my new favorite bed.
That's a hell of an endorsement coming from you.
Yeah, I don't know. But I can tell you, a bed is different for everybody. That's why my friends would all come and go, okay, what's the best bed? What should I buy? And I go, if it was that easy, we would not have 50 beds on the floor. We'd have 3, firm, soft, and pillow top, right? But everybody's body is different, so it really takes that. That's why they need to come to the store to try them out, right? So, but passion is vital. I don't think you can be successful if you don't believe in what you're doing. because you can't lead without passion. You know, your team has to feel that you are passionate about whatever you're going to change, whatever you're going to make different, why you're better as a company. That's got to come from you. It can't come from the team below you. They got to know that the leader believes in what we're doing. And so I think passion and showing your passion and believing in it, but it's got to be authentic. It can't be some made-up thing. I'm going to pretend like I really am excited when I'm not. But it doesn't mean that your personality has to be, over the top either. It could be just talking through why this is good, the change, and understanding your product and understanding your drive of what are you trying to accomplish. What do you want to change? What do you want to improve? Because that's all entrepreneurship is making things better and doing something different. So you got to understand what are you trying to accomplish. If you're trying to make money, then you're not going to succeed. If you're going to try to make a difference, my goal was to make a difference in how people bought beds and to have people sleep on better beds. And then, as part of that, to change the world for foster kids. And I can't express more how important I believe having a philanthropic part of your business is. And you need to understand you don't have to give a lot. You don't have to, do much. You just have to start little and do piece by piece, figure out how you can change something and give of yourself, whether it's your time, your knowledge to help somebody, whether it's your product that you're going to help somebody with and, give them a break on it so they can get out there. If you want someone to beta test something, give it to someone that can really use it and make a difference and do that. But figure out how you can get a philanthropic push into that. And I will tell you, it is really a fundamental part of why Sleep Train was successful. Because people had many choices of where to buy. And I will tell you, majority of people that came in the store would tell our salespeople the reason they buy from us is because we care about the community and we care about giving back. And they were willing to pay more if they did. I mean, that wasn't an issue for them. Not that we were charging them more, but it would be, they were willing to come in. Price wasn't their issue. They wanted to come in and buy from us because they knew their money would actually go to work. So it will change, and your life will change by giving. The more you give, the more you will get. So the more you can think about how you incorporate that as part of your future, I think you will see it being life-changing.
You got a question?
Yeah, you had mentioned early on, that basically everybody's your target market because everybody needs a mattress.
Yeah.
But then you alluded to later. It sounded like you narrowed in on 35 and above, kind of the higher.
That's the
end.
core. Yeah.
So
Yeah, you got to have your core.
How did you decide to get to that as opposed to targeting everybody?
Primarily because you needed to. I mean, as you all know that I also bought Mattress Discounters, right? So we owned Mattress Discounters for a line. We had both companies. I bought Mattress Discounters in order to better service both customers. My dad and mom were two different types of shoppers. My dad, there wasn't a piece of furniture in his house that wasn't bought at a clearance closeout discount bargain store. He wanted the deal, right? It's all good stuff. He wanted quality, but he wanted a deal. My mom is a Nordstrom shopper. She wants the package. She wants the service. She wants everything that goes with it. She wants to have, good quality, but she wants to be treated like she deserves to be treated. So that's Sleep Train. My dad needed to know there was a deal somewhere and he'd get a deal, and he didn't necessarily care about free delivery. He didn't care about that. He had a truck. He had that. So we separated the companies in order to better service the customer. Because I still believe if you try to be everything for everyone, you're not good at anything for anyone. And so by focusing on our core customer, the one that we still took care of everybody, that was like one of the arguments was, why do we get free delivery to someone buying a $200 bed? We're losing money. I go, well, because eventually they may buy a better bed. And we wanted to make sure that we took care of them. So we kind of serviced everybody, but our core marketing, our core approach went to, and our product selection really went to servicing that customer base at the Sleep Train stores.
Does Mattress Firm make that distinction? Have a lower end and higher end variant, or no?
They're a little more in the middle base. They kind of are more broad base with a tilt towards the upper end.
Micah?
So it seems like a lot of your learning has been on the fly, on the job, and it seems to have served you well. With the influx of entrepreneurship education that's kind of come from over the years, how do you feel about that? You talked about mentoring. What do you think your role is in helping younger entrepreneurs, and what do you think about that whole scene?
I think it's fantastic. I wish I had that opportunity to have learned some of this information so I didn't have to learn by mistakes. I used to call my Harvard educations because they, could have gone to Harvard for what it cost and making the wrong mistake. So being able to learn that, from the high school level now on up, I think is fantastic. And what we're working to do, my wife and I are working with Sac State to actually found their Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. So we're looking to grow it at Sac State, but to work with the other colleges to grow entrepreneurship here. My goal is to hopefully help to mentor and to work with students and people looking to grow their business and do that, because I get a lot of joy out of that. I really enjoy, just being a sounding board and asking the questions, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? Because that's what we don't have, right? I mean, when I was starting, I had no one to go to ask, hey, I want to do this. So my sounding board was my team. I also, the other thing, if you have an opportunity for an industry type thing, or like I joined a CEO group, that was very helpful for me. It was a little later on in my career, but it was really helpful because when you're, as you know, those of you that are, CEOs of your own company, it is very lonely, as I heard you say. You don't have anybody you can go to ask that doesn't have an interest in an outcome. You can't go to your spouse or your girlfriend or boyfriend or whatever, because your decision on what you're going to do with the company will have an impact on them. You can't go to the employees because your decision will have an impact on them to get a truly honest answer. So getting yourself surrounded by people that aren't associated with your company or your industry necessarily really gives you insight to have somebody, just give you some feedback saying, hey, well, I don't know, in our industry, this is how we did it. Have you thought about that? It also cross-pollinates ideas from industries that I think is very beneficial.
Another question over here, Brandon?
So I just find it fascinating that your early background as a pilot didn't influence you to call it sleep plan. I just found that interesting.
Yeah. Well, there's, you don't have the toot toot with the plane. I needed the toot toot.
Those jingles mean everything. And I think, in retrospect, from all that you've learned throughout this period in business, if you didn't get the exposure that you gained via radio, how would you have gone about making this a successful company?
It would have been interesting to see what avenue to go of how to do that. I think, my old boss claimed that I was like a dog with a sock. I wouldn't let go. So if it hadn't been radio, I think I would have found and tugged at some other avenue to try to see how to get the message out, because that was the key. But it was, once again, I didn't have the training in marketing and anything like that. I became a marketer. I became to understand marketing a lot, but it was on-the-job training. And where these entrepreneurship programs and places like this where you can talk with other people, where you can learn from people, I think are going to help accelerate more entrepreneurship. And also the millennial generation is much more entrepreneurial than my generation, and after that, so it's exciting to see where that's going to go. But I think you just got to keep working to see what is the right avenue, test and retest and try another way. Is how I kept doing it.
Okay, time for one more question. Anybody?
I got one more question.
Okay. Last question then.
All right.
Right here.
Did you find that the idea of philanthropy that was infused into your company helped you to retain and gain employees?
Great question. Yes, I didn't put that in there. Yes, I will tell you it was. If you talk to my employees, they'll tell you one of the reasons they work for the company is because we were a company that cared. And it wasn't just a slogan that we had or something that we did. They knew that it was fundamentally from the core of the company that this is something that we believed in. So that changed the type of client, or type of employees that we attracted too. We attracted better employees that were more engaged and more wanting to make a difference and wanting to do the right thing because of the culture we had built and the philanthropy that was surrounded by it. It was critical, I think, to our success and our growth of the employees that we have. It kept them there longer, kept them there engaged longer, and they felt that it was there. The other just key part on that is that from a marketing standpoint, back to your part, if you looked at our marketing for philanthropy versus that, you'll notice that we never did an ad that said, Sleep Train mattresses on sale, come help foster kids. There were always foster kid ads and sale ads. I never wanted the impression that buy a bed, save a kid. I think too often in our world, corporate America has decided to, say that they want to be good citizens and give back, but they want to do it to drive sales. They don't understand that if you do good citizen, if you're a good citizen and you give back, you will drive sales. But when you tie the two together, I think the consumer sees it, and they don't think it's authentic, and they don't believe in it. So we separated, which is a hard thing to understand because it's a huge budget that we had that was not going to drive our business from a marketing standpoint, was going to drive our collection of goods for foster kids. But that in itself turned around to drive our business. So making that distinction, I think, is important when if you believe in giving back, and it will come. You just got to, continue to make a difference and show that you want to make a difference. So.
So my final question is, who's your favorite superhero?
Favorite superhero? That's a good question. I would have to be traditionalist and say Superman.
I was thinking about that pajama boy. Well, you're a hero for us, and so actually as a thank you gift, we've actually made a video game with you as a star.
Oh, that's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Really appreciate that. Thank you, everyone. That's great. Okay. Oh, all right.